The price of greed. The Hollow Pines Mall loomed against the inky sky, its facade cracked but still imposing. A line of eager shoppers stretched across the parking lot, their breath visible in the cold November air. Lisa tightened her coat, clutching her daughter's wish list. Money was tight, but she couldn't bear the thought of disappointing her little girl on Christmas morning. Beside her, a scruffy man in a retail uniform lit a cigarette. "You think it's worth all this?" he muttered. Lisa glanced at him. "You don't seem like the shopping type." "I'm not." He took a drag. "Name's Jake. I work at Electronics Haven inside. Midnight shift. Black Friday's hell, but the overtime keeps the lights on." Lisa nodded, sympathizing. Before she could reply, the mall doors creaked open. The crowd surged forward, excitement turning into a frenzied stampede. Lisa felt herself swept along, her boots barely touching the ground as she stumbled through the entrance. Inside, the mall's usual fluorescent lights flickered erratically. The air was colder than outside, carrying an odd metallic tang. Shoppers darted in every direction, their shouts and laughter echoing eerily in the cavernous space. Lisa headed for the toy store, clutching her list. She passed a mannequin display in a clothing store window and paused. One of the mannequins, a tall figure in a tattered dress, seemed to be watching her. Its head was slightly turned, its blank eyes fixed directly on her. "Creepy," she muttered, hurrying past. The first omen. At Electronics Haven, Jake was restocking a shelf of discounted TVs when the lights overhead buzzed and dimmed. The customers didn't seem to notice, too busy tearing through the shelves like vultures. "Hey, back off!" Jake barked at a man elbowing another shopper. The man ignored him, grabbing a TV box and sprinting down the aisle. Jake cursed under his breath. Suddenly, the store's sound system crackled to life. A distorted voice, deep and guttural, spoke, "Welcome, shoppers. Tonight, everything must go, including you." The words sent a chill down Jake's spine. He looked around, but no one else reacted. Then he noticed the fog. It seeped from under the shelves, curling around his ankles. Jake stumbled back, dropping the inventory scanner he'd been holding. The fog was icy, numbing his skin. From the corner of his eye, he saw movement, a shadow darting between the aisles. "Hello?" he called, his voice shaky. No reply. The shoppers vanish. Lisa had made it to the toy store, but something felt wrong. The aisles were empty, though she was sure dozens of shoppers had entered before her. The shelves were fully stocked, as if untouched. "Hello," she called out. Her voice echoed unnaturally. A faint scraping sound came from the back of the store. Lisa froze, clutching a stuffed bear she'd picked up. "Is someone there?" The scraping grew louder, accompanied by a low, guttural growl. Lisa backed away, her breath hitching. From the shadows, a figure emerged, a mannequin, its joints moving with a sickening creak. It tilted its head, mimicking her movements, before lunging forward. Lisa screamed and threw the bear at it. The mannequin's glassy eyes remained locked on her as its fingers clawed at the air. She turned and ran, her heart pounding. The truth revealed. Lisa collided with Jake in the mall's main corridor. "You too?" she gasped. "Something's wrong," Jake said, his face pale. "People are disappearing. I saw someone dragged into the fog back in electronics." A deep rumble echoed through the mall, followed by a chilling announcement over the loudspeakers. "Attention, shoppers. Payment is due. Pay in blood or never leave." The remaining shoppers screamed and ran, but the exits had vanished, replaced by endless walls of shelves. The fog thickened, and shadowy figures moved within it. Lisa and Jake found themselves joined by a few other survivors, a teenage girl clutching a shopping bag, an older man wielding a broken umbrella, and a young couple holding hands. Together, they tried to find a way out, but the mall seemed to shift around them, leading them in circles. At the center of the mall, they found an old plaque hidden beneath a tarp. It read, "On this ground, in 1887, the Hollow Pines Massacre claimed 37 lives. Their restless souls shall forever haunt this place." Jake ran his fingers over the inscription. "The mall was built on cursed land," he muttered. "That's why it's happening now," Lisa realized. Black Friday, the greed, the chaos, it's feeding them. The final stand. The fog coalesced into humanoid shapes, ghostly figures of the victims, their eyes glowing with hatred. The mannequins joined them, their glass bodies cracking as they moved. "We have to give them what they want," Lisa said. "What, our lives?" Jake snapped. "No." She looked at the items in their hands. "Our greed, the things we came here for." One by one, they threw their purchases into the fog. The spirits hesitated, their forms flickering. "It's not enough," Jake said. "They want more." The teenage girl sobbed, clutching her bag. "It's all I have." Lisa stepped forward, ripping the dress off a mannequin. "Take me instead," she screamed. "Let the others go." The spirits swarmed her, their screams deafening. The others ran, escaping into the parking lot as the mall collapsed behind them, consumed by the fog. Epilogue. Weeks later, the mall's ruins were cordoned off. Officials claimed structural failure, but survivors knew better. On Christmas morning, Lisa's daughter unwrapped her gifts, unaware of her mother's sacrifice. Far away, beneath the rubble of Hollow Pines Mall, Lisa stood motionless, a mannequin now, her eyes glassy but still alive, trapped forever in the cursed mall. Emma wasn't the type to obsess over sales, but this year was different. Her best friend, Mia, had raved about the Black Friday deals at Silhouette Department Store, a place Emma had never heard of. "It's legendary," Mia had said, eyes glinting with excitement. "Once-in-a-lifetime stuff. People say you can find exactly what you didn't even know you needed." Intrigued and a little skeptical, Emma decided to check it out. The store was located on the outskirts of town, in a dimly lit area she didn't usually frequent. When she arrived, the parking lot was oddly empty for a Black Friday night. The store's neon sign flickered above its entrance. Silhouette, open, midnight to eternity. "Creepy," she muttered, pulling her jacket tighter against the chill. The sliding glass doors hissed open as she approached, and warm, inviting light spilled out. Inside, the store was pristine, with gleaming floors and displays that seemed curated just for her. She wandered through aisles of items that felt strangely familiar. There was a leather journal she'd been thinking about starting a diary in, a pair of boots she'd admired online but never bought, even a scent wafting through the air that reminded her of her grandmother's kitchen. Then she saw it, a dress. It hung on a mannequin at the center of the store, bathed in a soft spotlight. The fabric shimmered like liquid silver, and its cut was perfect, flattering in a way Emma had never seen in real life. A small tag dangled from the sleeve, one of a kind, Emma reached out, fingers brushing the cool fabric, and felt a sudden jolt, like static electricity. The world around her seemed to blur, and for a moment she thought she heard whispers. She shook her head, dismissing it as fatigue, and took the dress to the fitting room. The moment she slipped it on, Emma knew it was hers. The dress hugged her figure perfectly, and she felt a surge of confidence, like she could conquer the world. Smiling, she turned to leave the fitting room, but the door wouldn't open. Panic bubbled in her chest. She twisted the knob and shoved the door with all her strength, but it didn't budge. "Hello?" she called, her voice echoing unnaturally. The fitting room's fluorescent lights began to flicker, and when they steadied, the mirror reflected a scene that wasn't the room behind her. Instead, she saw a crowded aisle full of shoppers, their faces blurred and indistinct, rushing past like a time-lapse video, their hands clawed at shelves, grabbing items with unnatural speed. Emma stumbled back, and the mirror shattered. The fitting room dissolved, leaving her standing in an aisle she didn't recognize. "Excuse me," she began, but her voice caught in her throat. The shoppers were everywhere, but something was wrong. Their faces were distorted, stretched into grotesque masks of hunger and desperation. Eyes bulged, mouths gaped unnaturally wide, and their hands were twisted into claws. They didn't notice Emma. They were too focused on tearing through the shelves, which seemed to restock themselves the moment an item was taken. She tried to back away, but her feet wouldn't move. Looking down, she realized the floor had turned into a sticky, tar-like substance, holding her in place. Enjoying the sale? Emma whipped her head around to see an older woman standing nearby. She wore a store uniform, her name tag reading Marjorie, but her smile was unnervingly wide, stretching far past what should have been possible. "What's going on?" Emma stammered. Marjorie's head tilted unnaturally. "Why, it's the sale of a lifetime. Everything you could ever want, right at your fingertips. Don't you love the dress? It suits you." Emma looked down at the dress. It was no longer silver, but dark, almost black, and seemed to writhe like a living thing. She clawed at the fabric, trying to tear it off, but it clung to her skin. "Let me go!" Emma screamed. Marjorie's smile widened. "I'm afraid you're one of us now, a part of the Silhouette family." The shoppers around her stopped. Slowly, they turned to face Emma, their empty eyes locking onto her. Then they lunged. Emma's scream echoed through the store, but outside, all was silent. Days later, Mia visited Silhouette to look for her missing friend. As she walked through the aisles, her eyes caught on a mannequin at the store's center. It wore a stunning silver dress and bore an uncanny resemblance to Emma. Mia frowned. Weird. She turned away, not noticing how the mannequin's head shifted slightly to watch her leave.